Welcome to my channel. In today's tutorial, I'll be learning how to cut maxi jumpsuit with no waistline joining. And towards the end of this video, I'll be teaching you how to modify the neckline or how to modify the jumpsuit to suit the design or the pattern you want to achieve. But firstly, we are going to learn how to do the basic pattern for it. Then I'll teach you how to modify it later on in the video. Don't skip any part. Stay with me till the end of this video. This is the pattern paper I'll be using to draft this jumpsuit. You can work directly on your fabric. So the first thing is I'll mark 4 inches. I'll mark 4 inches till I get to the end of the pattern, and I will draw a straight line joining the 4 inches. And that line will be my starting point. That is where I'll start drafting from. Starting from the line I just drew, I'll mark 3 inches. And from that 3 inches, I'll mark 5 inches. And from the 5 inches, I'll come down by 1.5 inches. And I'll draw my shoulder slant line. The next thing is to divide my back by 2 and mark it. I'll mark it on the shoulder line as well, so that I can connect the straight line where I will mark my armhole. That's my arm. That is where I will mark my armhole depth divided by 2. The next thing is to mark my shoulder to my waist. That is the half length from that shoulder from to my waist, so that I can get my waistline. The next thing I'll mark is the crush line, and how to get your crush line is you divide your hip circumference by 4, and whatever your answer is, you add between 3 to 4 inches to it. You can add 3 inches, you can add 3.5, you can add 4 inches. Because it is a jumpsuit, you need it free at that point. That is why you are adding up to 3 or 4 inches to it. So that is the crotch line. And the next line I will draw will be my hip line. So still from the waistline, I will measure 8 inches. It depends on how tall the person is. You can use 9 inches, and you can reduce it. You can use 7 inches. The height of the person is what will determine the waist to hip line measurement. Here I use 8 inches. That is from the waistline to the hip line. So what I'll do now is to divide my bust circumference by 4, and whatever is the answer, I will mark it at this point. What's divided by 4? At this point, my waist divided by 4, waist circumference divided by 4. On the hip line, hip circumference divided by 4. And on the crotch line also, hip circumference divided by 4. The next thing is to join all the spots. Join all the measurements. After joining, we'll work on the crotch extension. So I will extend the crotch line, and after extending the crotch line, I'll just draw the crotch extension curve. And I must say that I used all the 4 inches that I left is what I'm using as the crotch extension. Just because it's a maxi jumpsuit, I want the crotch part to be very free. That is why I'm using 4 inches. If you don't want it that free, then you can use the calculation by dividing your hip. You divide your hip by 16, then you use it as your crotch extension. But I decided to use the whole 4 inches that I left on that pattern paper. The next thing is to work on the full length of our jumpsuit. So I'll place my tape on the shoulder line and mark the full length that I want to work with. In this case it's 58, so I mark 58, and I'll draw an horizontal line. That is the down part of our jumpsuit. Then I'll measure 2 inches, which will be for the fold. This 2 inches is what I will fold in when sewing the jumpsuit. Since this maxi jumpsuit is very free, now we'll add the allowance, the ease allowance I want. On the bust point I added 2 inches. On the waist I added 2.5 inches. It depends on how wide you want it to be or how free you want it to be. You can add more than this, and you can reduce. And on the hip line I added 3 inches. Now if you want, you can maintain what you have on the hip line till you get to the lower part of your jumpsuit. If you want the lower part to be slim, then you will reduce it, and if you want it wider, you can increase it. But for the sake of this tutorial, I will just maintain what I have. I will measure what I have at that part, and I will take it straight to the hemline. But if you want it more, if you want it to be bigger, to be more free at the lower part, then you increase it. So the next thing is to just join the lines. At this side also, you can maintain this straight line down, and if you like, you can just carve it in. You see the way I'm carving it in. If you do it like this, it will reduce the wideness of your jumpsuit at the down part. But for me, I'll just come in by half an inch, and from there I'll just draw the line straight down, because I don't want it to, I want it to maintain its wideness even at the, as we go down. So this is what I'll just maintain till I get to the hemline. The next thing to do is to work on the neckline. It depends on what you want to achieve, but basically I'll just put 3 inches for the width and 3 inches for the depth for the front neckline, and I'll be using the same pattern for the back, so I'll put the neckline for the back as well. 1 inch depth, 3 inches for the width for the back, and I will just connect it. So that's the neckline for the front and for the back. So if you are cutting for the front, you need to add half an inch at this part, which will be the seam allowance. That is what you will use to join it when you are joining the center front. So you just after marking the half an inch, you draw your line and make sure it blends with the crochet extension as well. So after doing this, I'll cut it out. Then if you are using it to cut your fabric, you place it on your fabric. Your fabric will be on fold, and you cut 2 of it, one for the right and one for the left. So after doing that, then we'll now modify for our back. Let me cut it out and bring it back so that we can modify it for the back. So this is what we have. Now the next thing is to modify it for the back. So I'll just stick it on another paper and come back to show you how to modify it. Alright, this is what we have. Now if you are sewing one that has zip at the back, then you need to add 1 inch from the center. You add 1 inch allowance, and this will be your zipper allowance. It depends on what you use as your zipper allowance. If you use 2 inches, then maybe you add 2 inches, but 1 inch is what I use, so I will extend it by 1 inch, which is the zipper allowance now for the back. Remember, we are trying to modify the pattern now for the back. This scotch extension now extended by 2 inches until 2 inches all through till I get to the end. I will draw the line and cut it out. That is all the modification we have to do for the back. So you just place this on your fabric and cut out 2 pieces as well for the back. If you are adding zipper allowance, then if you are adding zipper, then you add your zipper allowance. If you're not adding zipper, you might just maintain your half an inch for the seam. Now remember that I did not add side seam allowance when I was hiding to the side. If you want allowance, then you will still have to add, but basically this is an easy way to explain how to cut a maxi jumpsuit. Now the next thing I'll do is I will show you miniature pattern, that is small pattern, and I'll modify how to cut the different neckline depending on the type of jumpsuit you want to sew. Let me show you how to modify each jumpsuit neckline depending on what you want to achieve. The first one is a jumpsuit like this. If you want to achieve something like this, this is your pattern, and the first thing is to mark 4 or 5 inches from your shoulder downward. 4 inches or 5 inches, you mark it and you draw a line like this. Now from the armhole you come in, depending on how open you want that part to be. You can come in by, let's say, 2 inches. Then you redraw the armhole curve. Then from this point you go down again by, let's say, 2 or 3 inches as well. Then you connect it from there to the other mark, and that is what you have. So you do it to the front and to the back. You cut it off and you tape it. That is how to achieve this particular neckline for this jumpsuit. The next one is this particular jumpsuit. All you have to do is to pick your pattern, and from the shoulder line you come down by whatever you want this jumpsuit to be off. You can use 5, you can use 6, depending on where you want it to start. Then you draw your line and cut off. This is the front. You cut off the upper part, and then you pick the back. And depending on how deep you want it to be, so you just modify it. Just watch as I'm doing it and you modify it accordingly. Depends on how deep you want the back to be. You modify it accordingly, and then after joining you sew a belt that will hold it at the back. So the belt will start from the front, and it will hold it at the back just as it is in the image. Let me mark the normal neckline, which is usually 3 by 3 inches, so that when I modify it you understand how I'll do the modification. And this is the front. So for the armhole, you can come down, you can come in by, let's say, 2 inches. I'm coming, let's say, by 2 inches. Then you come down by maybe 1 or 2 inches, depending on how open you want it to be, you want your armhole to be. So you connect it like this. Then because when you look at this halter neck jumpsuit, it has gather, so we are going to extend the neckline so that all those excess will be gathered. That's why I'm extending it like this, so that they will all be gathered. We have enough to be together before you put your belt or your collar, as the case may be, depending on what you want to put at the neck. So this will be for the front, and so that is the guardian that will be on the neckline. And we'll modify the back as well, but you can, if you like, you can sew the front entirely, or you can make it have an opening. So the same thing we did for the front we'll do for the back, only that the back depth, the neckline depth for the back can just be 1 inch. So because of the cut the neckline will have excess, and if you want it open, you will not sew the center back all through. And this is for the halter neck jumpsuit. Now let's work on a one shoulder maxi jumpsuit. All you need is your pattern as usual, and this time around you need the two sides, that is the left and the right side for the front, the left and the right side for the back. So you place it on each other, like close to each other like this, and you mark where you want your neckline to start from, and you draw the line the way I'm drawing it, and you cut it out. So you have one shoulder that is off and the other shoulder is still there. So this is basically how to achieve this. And if you want to put an elastic, you can put an elastic just as it is in the image, and then you can come in at this part too. You can come in maybe by 1 inch, and this is what you have both for the front and for the back. That is how to achieve this particular one. Now lastly, let's talk about how to widen the leg of a jumpsuit. Let's assume you have a jumpsuit pattern like this and you want to widen the leg. The legs are not too wide and not wide enough. So the easy way to do it is to draw a line. If you want it to start from the crotch, then you draw the line from the crotch. If you want it to widen from the hip, you draw the line from the hip. If you want it to widen from the waist, you make sure your line starts from the waist. So just watch as I will cut it. So this is more like a slash and spread method of widening the leg of your jumpsuit. And if you don't want it to start from here, if you want it to start at the nail, then you mark where your nail is and you just do it exactly like this. You cut it horizontally and vertically, and then you will open it up. You open it, then when you put your fabric or your pattern, you draw it, and you make the lower part curve the way you want it. And if you do it like this, it will extend the leg of your jumpsuit. I hope you have learned something in this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed, subscribe, like and share. And we are going to use the main pattern we drafted. We'll be using it to sew a particular jumpsuit that I came across. I will show you right now. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notification icon so that when I upload the video of how to sew this particular jumpsuit, you'll be notified. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video.